Hi, my name is Tyler Burrows. I'm a realtor here in Vancouver, and this series is aimed at introducing and highlighting the who, the what, and the where of Vancouver. So I called it a big part about being a realtor is actually like being a matchmaker, but it's not just matching people with property and property with people. It's often connecting people with local professionals, businesses, events, charities, and other amazing human beings. Today, we're going to be talking to Rahel from Rahel Movement Arts. All right, we're here with Rahel from Rahel Movement Arts, and why don't you start by telling us a little bit about what is Rahel Movement Arts?
Yeah, so I teach movement arts currently in the form of dance, specifically raksharki, which is Egyptian belly dance, as well as fitness and yoga and meditation. But to me, movement arts is all about embodiment, empowerment, and self-acceptance through mindful movement, and that can come in many different forms. So while currently what I'm known for and my specialty is Egyptian belly dance, raksharki, I am working towards branching off in different modalities and to offer different ways of having people experience embodiment through mindful movement.
So we're in your home studio now. Do you teach strictly at home, or do you have another studio?
Yeah, so prior to COVID, I was teaching at multiple different locations, sort of like as a subcontractor, different dance studios, different community centers. When COVID hit, I moved entirely online, and so my home studio, became my entire location. I'm currently, with the restrictions lifting, sort of moving back into in-person, sort of exploring the idea of hybrid classes, which would be both in-person and online. Currently, most of my offerings are online, but I'm hoping to eventually be offering both. So both studio as well as having those classes be streamed on Zoom and or recorded. And I'm also in the process of creating and launching my first pre-recorded on-demand course, which will then evolve into a series of courses and different offerings so that people have multiple different modalities and ways of experiencing what I offer.
Great. We'll put links to that underneath the video and keep updates. Now you mentioned COVID, and no one likes talking about it, but you said that it brought your classes online. How was that transition? Was it scary for you?
It was definitely scary, and it was pretty stressful for the first couple of weeks, maybe months, just sort of like completely changing how I was doing administration and figuring out the tech and figuring out the sound and the logistics. But once I got into the flow of things, I actually really liked it. And I'm sort of a lot of silver linings. Like, I'm really grateful for the opportunity that now I'm completely digital, or have the capacity to be completely digital. I have a way bigger reach. I have students who were working with me locally and moved away and are now working with me again. I've had students who have been wanting to work with me but haven't been local that are working with me. So I'm just have access to so many more people, and I'm really grateful for that. And it's nice to just like kind of roll out of bed, like throw some clothes on, run into my living room, teach a class, not have to pay for parking. There's lots of benefits to online, and I think other people are really enjoying it too. Like, some people are zoomed out and they want to be in person. And that's why I want to offer both. But, lots of people, they've got kids at home, they can't leave the house, or they live far away, or they like, having the privacy, being able to turn their camera off or wear whatever they want, or not have to take the commute. And also the option of the recordings afterwards is really helpful, because lots of people, stuff happens, schedules get busy. And so people being able to access the recording of the class afterwards is just like so much less stress for everyone, myself included.
Now, so you teach dance. Do you also perform?
Yes, I am a professional raksharki belly dancer. I perform at weddings and private events and restaurants, and I do galas and showcases and fundraisers. I put on a huge show, usually annually, called Yahalwa, where my students perform and I perform. I have other guest dancers. I usually bring in a special guest to teach workshops. So we're hosting, Minat and BIPOC. Minat is Middle Eastern, North African, Turkish, and Hellenic. And then BIPOC for representation, making sure that, myself and my fellow colleagues are using our platform to help make sure that there is representation, especially from the culture, within this cultural dance form. So workshops, performances, shows, productions, etc.
Great. And just going to go back to representation. I know in your classes you do focus on cultural appropriation. Can you maybe tell us a little bit about how you keep that at the forefront of what you do?
So I make sure that I'm using my platform to educate and empower students to have information about history, about engaging ethically with something that is cultural, especially if it's not their culture of origin. So before students can learn with me, they always have to go through a process of, it's fun, but it's a lecture on belly dance history and cultural context that includes issues like ethical cultural engagement and cultural appropriation versus appreciation, and how to be a respectful ambassador and guest to the culture. And then embedded throughout the classes are, information on cultural context. So if we're listening to a song that has a specific, style or genre or origin, I'll explain that, or a movement, and just make sure that we're continuously engaging ethically, so that we're not perpetuating more history of cultural appropriation.
Right. Maybe you can go over some of the benefits of these classes. I don't want to, I guess that sounds like I'm undermining it a little bit, but tell us why would someone want to go to these classes?
Yeah, for sure. So I'll start with belly dancing, and then I'll kind of branch off into my other offerings. And there's a lot of overlaps. A lot of what I'm offering is the same, but with belly dance specifically, we focus a lot on pelvic floor and pelvic wall health, which is like so integral for many humans, but women especially, who happen to be my primary clients, whether it's trauma, birth or sexual or otherwise, car accidents, and just sort of a general disconnection. There's so much benefit to health and body and embodiment in connecting to pelvic floor and pelvic wall, posture and alignment, strengthening, mobilization, mobility, flexibility, being able to feel more comfortable in your body, not just physically, but emotionally as well. So being able to have the feeling of control and autonomy to move your body in a specific way, and feel comfortable, wearing clothing or being on stage or performing or jiggling. I always tell my students, if you're not jiggling, you're doing it wrong. And that can provide a lot of liberation, especially in our super patriarchal, there it is again, patriarchal capitalist society that, has such impossible beauty standards. And so providing people with an opportunity to feel good about their bodies because of what they're doing as opposed to how they look. And then that can create a beautiful cycle of self-acceptance. And also it's super fun. It's just really fun, so you can go to the gym and you can pump iron, and if that works for you, then that's great. But if you want a way to move mindfully in your body and to connect with other people, whether it's on Zoom or in person or with me, the teacher, I provide opportunity for networking with your other, classmates. I offer challenges, sometimes group performances. There's different ways of creating connection. But yeah, it's just really fun. It's fun and it's joyful and it's beautiful and the music is great. So whether it's belly dancing and it's sort of upbeat and fun and more community based, or if it's embodied fitness and strengthening and conditioning and people feeling good and empowered in their bodies, or it's yoga and meditation, allowing for rest and rejuvenation and nervous system reset and mindfulness and relaxation. There are, a plethora of both physical, physiological, mental, and, arguably spiritual benefits to gain from what I offer.
Great. And now, just to wind it up, I saw a video of you online doing a belly roll. How hard is that? And could you teach me how to do a belly roll? Is that possible, you think?
Yeah, belly rolls are a little more advanced. So my level system goes beginner in terms of technique is beginner, level 1, level 2, level 3. And then I also offer drills classes and choreography classes sort of mixed into the higher levels. But just for context, belly rolls I teach at level 2. So pretty high up there.
Okay.
It takes, a couple of months of getting used to manipulating your abdominal muscles in this isolated way, controlling both an external versus internal contraction, and, being aware of stabilizing your posture and alignment. But some people can do it right away. Some people just get it. So if you have any kind of self-awareness of your body.
Doesn't sound like me, but I'm willing to give it a
feel
try.
like you do. then you might be able to pick it up. So let's try it.
Okay.
And, you know, even if you don't get it, it can be something that you start working towards.
All right. All right. So I feel a little bit weird, but why don't you take me?
Great.
Thank you. Why don't you take me through how this starts? Where would you start when you teach someone?
So the first thing we want to do is stabilize the things that we're not moving. So this is one of the few movements in Raksharki, in belly dance, that is actually like an isometric, which means that we're not moving joints, we're not moving skeleton. So it's a dynamic isometric. We're moving muscles, we're moving them, but we're isolating them without moving anything else. So first you want to think about engaging the pelvic wall and your pelvic floor in a way to stabilize your pelvis. So if you put your fingers on your hip bones, you want to make sure that your hip bones are not going to be moving in and out.
Okay.
Right? So you can feel if you release the pelvis that the hip bones kind of move down.
Right.
And if you tuck, they're moving in. So that means we're moving joints. We don't want to do that. So we're going to isolate the pelvis. Same thing with the chest. So you want to feel these muscles in your mid back kind of elongating through the rib cage, pressing the shoulders down so we're not moving the rib cage, right? So no
terrible posture.
Well, it'd help with that too.
Yeah, okay.
That's a whole other lesson. So making sure that your spine stays straight, essentially. And you can put your hands on your chest, you can put your hands on your hip bones or on your back to make sure that you're not moving your spine. So we're just going to be moving the belly. So that in itself is already hard. So now we want to work on step 2, which is moving the belly out and in. So I call this eccentric and concentric contractions of the abdominal wall.
Okay.
We're primarily moving the rectus abdominis, which is like the six-pack muscles, but we're also moving the obliques and a couple other things. So keeping the chest and the hips stabilized, you're going to try to basically poop out of your belly button. So you're pushing your belly out. It's not just like relaxing, it's actively pressing outward.
Gosh. Okay.
Yeah, without moving your spine, right? So we're not arching the back, we're just pushing out. I know it looks great. I always tease my mother with this. I'm like, look. She's like, no. Okay. And then pulling the belly in. So that one's easy, right?
Yeah.
That's like pretend I'm going to punch you and you contract in. So that's our concentric and then eccentric. Okay, so in and out. And we
practice. Take practice to get out that far.
Practice that for a while.
Okay.
I just have a bigger belly than you also. Then we're going to work on separating upper from lower. So we're using the fascial separation of the upper rectus abdominis and lower rectus abdominis as our like separation point. And we're going to define from the sternum to that first or that second fascial separation, from there to the hip bones.
Okay.
So this is going to be lower and this is going to be upper.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
So now we're going to practice moving one in and out at a time.
You said this was level
Level 2.
Level 2.
Yes.
Okay. I feel like I'm missing levels. All right.
Yes.
Okay.
So keeping the low belly pulled in, that concentric contraction, we want to try and push the upper belly. Yeah, that's good. The upper belly out in that eccentric contraction. And then switch. So now upper belly in, lower belly out. That's the harder one for most. Actually, no, I'd say the other one is harder for most people. Yeah. So it's a little seesaw. So we go switch, 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 switch. Yeah, good. Okay, now. Yeah, that was step 3.
Okay.
Step 4 is the sequence of those isolations. So we're gonna go, there's a step 5 too, 5 steps. So upper belly in, lower out, keep the lower out. Then we're gonna pull lower in. Then keeping lower in, we're gonna push upper out.
I think I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then pushing up, keeping upper out, we're going to push lower out. That's like, yeah.
Yeah, that is
Okay,
good.
now upper in, then lower in, upper out,
Oh, God.
then lower out. Upper in, upper out, lower out. Then we're going to smooth it out. So that's step 5, is we do what I call the then as sequence. So as we're contracting upper, then we start to contract lower. Then as we're contracting lower, we start to push out upper. Then as we're pushing out upper, we push out lower and we smooth it out into a roll.
All right, this is level 2.
This is level 2.
That's what it's supposed to look
this
like?
is your downward belly roll.
Oh, my God.
And then we reverse the sequence to go up. And then if we want to make it not an isometric, we would add spine and pelvis, which is a whole other thing.
Right.
And then it becomes an undulation. So this is down and this is up. You asked for it.
I'll leave that to the pros. All right. Well, thank you very much. This has been a great talk. And yeah, we'll link all of your information below.
Great.
And yeah, we'll hopefully keep everyone informed.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Straight from there.
Supposed to respond to that?
Okay.